Welcome to this first Sunday after Christmas. I hope that you have found joy in your holidays and you will continue to do so. Today we are reflecting on the passage from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 22 through 40. It's a passage in which Jesus is brought to the temple by his parents Mary and Joseph, according to the Jewish law. It warms every parent's heart when people make a fuss over their newborn child. Mary and Joseph were no different. Surely they felt a sense of pride that others were seeing in their son Jesus a hope for the world. They felt that too. There is something wonderful in the miracle of a newborn child. We are attracted to look at them closely, to look at their tiny fingers and toes, their fingernails, their lips, their nose, their eyes, their ears, everything a miniature perfection. We gaze into their eyes with wonder. They are a clean slate, just beginning life. Perhaps that is why we fawn and coo over them so. They have what we would like to possess again, innocence and purity. They are free from the worry and stress we come to know as we age. We see in them an amazing potential to maybe do what we didn't do, or perhaps not do what we did do. We see in them promise and hope, and it gives us a renewed sense of the possibilities for our world. In our passage, the old man Simeon and the old widow Anna saw in Jesus the miracle of God's response to the heartache in the world. They saw more than hope, but certain relief from the oppressive forces that held people down, that denied the right to a meaningful life and a peace for so many. More than see, they knew that this child before them would change the world. Theirs was a vision of tremendous hope and potential. And theirs was a vision that flowed from years of waiting and wondering if God's promise would ever be fulfilled in their lifetime, and that they would get the chance to see the Messiah for themselves. One cannot help but wonder if over all those years they started to doubt, day in and day out, waiting and watching, hoping. They were tired and worn, which surely made them feel discouraged. But in this moment of seeing and holding Mary and Joseph's baby in their arms, they saw what they had been waiting for all these years. I came across a cute poem by the late Reverend David Steele about Simeon, a reflection. And it follows, this preacher claims scholarly research had documented that Simeon, of Anna and Simeon, had pronounced the very same blessing, the one in Luke chapter 2, verses 27 through 35, over all the babies presented to him in the temple those final years of his life. He was pulling my leg, of course. But when I read the blessing and I thought about it, I began to wish he was right about Simeon and those babies. And I began thinking about our babies, and I wish some Simeon might hold up my grandbabies high and yours, the ones, born ones and not yet, proclaiming them with great conviction, you are the saviors of the world, meaning it so absolutely. Those young'uns would live it and love it and make it happen. I will never forget when my daughter Rachel and her husband Jeff asked me to be present at the birth of their first child, Nora, my first grandchild. I never in my wildest dreams ever thought that I would be able to be present at the birth of any of my grandchildren. I was thrilled and honored to be asked. I was nervous and a bit worried for Rachel too, because she started to have a hard time. And after all, you see, she's my baby, my youngest, and I wanted to know that she was going to be okay. And then sitting beside her bed, rubbing her back as she attempted to get some rest, the moment came in a flurry of activity, nurses and doctors making ready, Jeff and I looking at each other wide-eyed and taking our place beside Rachel. And then there, the doctor said, "That's her head." And before long, this beautiful life entered into our world, and the room was filled with peacefulness and indescribable joy. A new hope was born into our lives. I can still see in my mind's eye both of them holding their newborn child in their arms, each drawn in by the wonder and the miracle. I haven't been present for any of the other births of grandchildren. I've been busy watching the other ones at home, but soon after I would have the chance to be there to see and to witness the remarkable new life that each of them are, and marvel as I held them, as I looked into their eyes and saw future hope for our world. Isn't that what we all see when we look into the eyes of our young? Future hope for our world. Such is our desire for all of our young, that they might be the torch carriers lighting up the dark places of our world, standing up for all that is good and right and just, rising up to right the wrongs in our society and change the destructive course of prejudice and judgment of others and abuse of our planet, that they might possess the wisdom to save us from ourselves. Albert Schweitzer once said that in everyone's life at some time, our inner fire goes out. It is then burst into flame by an encounter with another human being. We should all be thankful, he goes on, for those people who rekindle the inner spirit. Sometimes the further down the road we travel, the more we are discouraged by unfulfilled hopes and dreams, even if only for a moment along this journey. Then comes along someone who reignites the flame, and our hope is restored. Something in them blows across the embers of our hearts and renews our faith. Perhaps that is what touched Simeon and Anna on that day. Surely that is what touches us when we look into the eyes of our young. But we are all really to be saviors in our own way in the world, even though most of us are well past newborn or young. It was recognized in us at our birth, and it has remained with us throughout our lives, wherever we find ourselves on our journeys. Jesus once put it another way, and he said to his followers, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." That hope was made real at our birth. May we carry you with passion in our hearts throughout our lives, touching the world where we can with grace and promise. May we possess the vision to see the gift that was brought into the world in Jesus' birth, as well as the gift of who we each are. Blessings and Christmas peace. Amen.